What's up, guys? Casey here with the Coyote Works channel. Hey, I've got a great video coming up for you in just a minute, but before I roll the video, I wanted to let you know that I did put a PayPal donate link down in the description below. I get requests and messages from people all the time asking about how they can contribute and support my channel financially. And honestly, the best way is, if you can or you feel like it, throw a couple of bucks in what I'm calling the tip jar by hitting that link below. If you're not in a position to, man, don't sweat it. No pressure, no obligation. Just stick around and enjoy the content. For those of you that do contribute, just know how much I appreciate it, and know that 100% of your contributions will go directly into all of the stuff that it takes to keep editing video and doing my best to provide the content that you guys enjoy. So, with that said, I hope you guys enjoy this video. It was already hot by 8 o'clock in the morning when I headed east out of Burns, Oregon on another overland adventure. It was with eager anticipation that I considered the fact that this trip held the potential to see some truly spectacular, unique, and seldom seen historic sights. After driving about an hour and a half through some of Eastern Oregon's most iconic desert landscapes, I arrived at the little one-horse, dusty town of Rome, Oregon, which was to be the meeting place. It was here that I would be meeting up with a small group of fellow adventurers who would be joining me for the trip. It was also here would be the last place we would see pavement and the last point at which we would have an opportunity to refuel and resupply for the next 4 days.
Go check, Casey.
This is Coyote Works. I read you loud and clear.
Copy that.
Danny Oakley here.
Copy that.
No, George has good comms because we were chatting on the way down.
How's it going, guys? Casey here with the Coyote Works channel. Well, we are rolling out of Rome, Oregon. And right now we're heading north. We're gonna make a quick stop and check out the Pillars of Rome. We got a great trip in store for you guys. We're gonna spend about 4 days out here exploring this country. I've got Georg with SW Idaho Overland. He's in lead right now. You guys, if you haven't, you should go check out his channel. He's another desert explorer that goes all over this country.
Hi, I'm George and I am SW Idaho Overlanding.
I'm Tess with Southwest Idaho Overlanding. I'm the navigator and I also do some camera work.
Hi, I'm Caleb. I'm with Southwest Idaho. I'm their stowaway. Sit in the back, taking the views and eat their food.
This is Iro. He's 4 months old. This is his second overlanding trip.
Got Jamie and Sarah behind us. I got Brian in front of us, so we've got 4 rigs for the trip, and it should just be a really good time. There's been some rain down here recently, so the desert should be nice and green. And we're seeing some country out here. We'll be going through some of the most remote country in the state, as always. And on this particular trip, once we leave the pavement today, we will not see pavement again for probably, getting close to or even north of 200 miles. Another awesome little overlanding destination is the Pillars of Rome. So it's just the turnoff to it's just a couple of miles west of Rome, Oregon, and then you're just going to head a few miles. I think it's about 3 miles north on a fairly well-maintained gravel road to the Pillars of Rome. The Pillars of Rome, it's not a long stop, but it's just a pretty cool little roadside attraction. Again, if you're traveling east-west through the state, it's a nice place to break up the trip and see some cool formations. All right, well, that was a fun little first stop at the Pillars of Rome, or actually just a little drive through here. So I was talking to George, and George and I were thinking that somewhere through here is where the old Ione Highway went. We do believe that Rome was named for these geographic features, the Pillars of Rome here, so it would make sense that this was the old Ione Highway. So George with Southwest Idaho Overland was on the last Coyote Works group overland trip last year, and he had one of the coolest rigs there. He's got an older Jeep Cherokee that you guys will get a chance to see a lot more of on this trip, but I think it's pretty cool that he goes out overlanding all over the place into some really remote country in that old rig. Man, one thing I just gotta say is this AEV dual sport lift kit that Lolo Overland put in my Jeep is actually just the ticket for this kind of adventuring out here that I do. Right now this road I'm on is pretty washboardy, and it is just crazy how well this lift just soaks up these washboards. So man, Josh, the guys up at Lolo Overland, thanks for the install on the AEV Conversions dual sport 2.5-inch lift kit. We're just doing a quick air down stop. We're going to be moving fairly fast, so I don't want to air down too far. If I air down too far, it'll build up heat in my tires and they'll wear a lot faster on these rocky, gravelly roads. So I'm going to air down to about 22 pounds, somewhere right in that area. Wow, this is crazy. They must have just got some rain out here within the last day or two. There's actually a lot of standing water, and out in this country with the dry air and the wind blowing and the porous loam and sandy soil, this water doesn't stand on the surface like this for very long. So I'm guessing maybe even yesterday, last night, something like that. And the nice thing about that though is it's really actually pretty green out here, which is kind of a treat for this country for this time of year. Usually by June, the predominant colors out here are brown and yellow, but we've still got quite a bit of green out here right now. Really beautiful. All right, so we are off of that kind of main road, even though it definitely wasn't a real well-trafficked road. We're off on this little side road, and we are working our way back towards the point of interest. And it's something on the map, I'm not going to say the name of it, but it's something that indicated that there might have been some kind of a fort there at one time. Oh, and we still got some mud along here too. All right, so we're getting closer to where this first stop should be, and the road's getting less and less and less, which makes me happy, which makes me think not too many people probably have been back here to this spot, or at least not too many people go to it on a regular basis. So I'm really hopeful. All right, so we're gonna walk down here and see what looks to be some old ruins on the map. And I think it's gonna be really interesting. Oh, and I don't know if I did tell you, Jamie, but what I did find was a little quarter section of an arrowhead. Within a short little walk, we begin to come to the rock structures that probably were responsible for the name that the place currently had on the old maps. It was really interesting to see the ingenuity that went into creating the walls and the stone structures across that little ravine. And we set about exploring it, trying to figure out what exactly was going on there. We're still not sure if it was just a homestead site or actually some kind of a fort that was built there at one point. That wall is, man, that was a lot of...
Snakes.
Yeah, a big one.
And it says something, BLE, and then it's cut off.
Yeah, definitely a homestead site here. Some pretty cool old depression glass. So it was relatively old.
Did you guys find?
Oh yeah.
We found an old stove, we believe.
Yeah, those are definitely pieces of the old stove. And Sarah, what was that repair?
Yeah, it cracks across what I think is the very front of it, and they had to put in little metal straps and screw it back together.
Wow. You turn it over and see what the other side looks like.
It's pretty ornate, huh?
It's really
Especially for out
much
here.
more ornate than what you usually find way out here.
Yeah, no kidding.
Crazy. Wondering if that's...
So basically right now we're just trying to make some time. We had that that last spot was pretty amazing. Turned out to be some pretty cool ruins there. And it's quite a ways to the next spot. And we actually want to try to roll into camp tonight with, you know, maybe a couple of hours before dark so that it's everybody's first night in camp. So we have a little extra time to set up. But also, you know, tonight's the night we'll probably cook a good portion of our fresh food, so we're freeing up room in our kit. So I always try to plan everything out so I eat like my meals, like my fresh vegetables, things that take up the most volume I eat earlier in the trip, or I tend to eat earlier in the trip. So anyways, we're just gonna make some time, but this is amazing, beautiful country out here. I haven't seen a tree since we left Rome. But I think where we're going to camp tonight, we should have some cottonwood trees or some willow trees down in that canyon. We're just continuing to work our way closer and closer to the area where I'm hoping to camp tonight. And now we're going out across this area that's just this wide open prairie, and I mean, there's not even hardly any sagebrush growing out here. It's just really cool, and we're starting to get into the later afternoon a little bit. It's about 5:15, and it's just wide open country. I mean, there's not a tree, and right now in this area, just not even a sagebrush, but really enjoying seeing this different kind of terrain, different kind of scenery, and different kind of plant life. After traveling for what seemed like miles across that wide open plateau, we eventually started to break down into a little bit more country cut up by some rugged canyons. I was hoping that the area that I'd identified for us to camp at was going to be close to what looked like on the map were some old stone ruins. So not only would that canyon provide us some coverage and a nice location to camp, maybe even some firewood, but I was hoping there'd be one last historical site for the day for us to see down there. What's up, guys? Well, we've arrived in this valley here. It's the fork of a couple of little canyons coming together, and this is where we're going to camp tonight, is somewhere in this ballpark here. But I've got a couple of these old ruins here, so I wanted to check them out. So this one here was an old living structure, very small house. This could have potentially been the original homestead at the site. And then back down there, we've got a couple of other sets of ruins that I'm going to go take a look at and see what they are. Very cool site. This is a place out in the middle of nowhere. There was a ranch out here, and I mean, this is in the middle of nowhere. So it would have been a long haul for these people to get groceries in and out of here. So I'm just going to go ahead and dump this can of gas in my Jeep so I can get it off the top of my rig. Or get this weight off the top of my rig, I should say. So I've got this gas and two 2-gallon cans of water up on top of my rack up there. So I'll use one of those water jugs up there first tonight, and I'll empty this gas into my tank right now, so that'll take some of the weight off of my roof rack for tomorrow. All right, well, I messed around with this new tent a little bit. I'm always a little bit hesitant to come on a long trip like this using a piece of gear, like at least a core piece of gear like a tent for the first time, but this is what I got to work with. Setup was really easy on it. For dinner tonight, I'm just going to do pretty simple. I've got some fresh fermented sauerkraut, some sausages, some nice buns, some stone ground mustard. Oh, I've got some cheese in there too. I'll have to get some cheese out. So I'll basically just have some sauerkraut and sausage dogs, and then I've got some fresh vegetables chopped up and super fruit cup here, and that'll be dinner for me tonight. All right, guys, I am hungry. So that's all for day number 1, guys. We've got a couple of more pretty cool days of this trip to go. So I'll catch y'all in the morning for coffee. For tonight, Coyote Works out. Good morning, guys. I slept like a baby last night. Was just looking out there to see if I could see any animals out there in that field. What a beautiful place to wake up in the morning. I'm pretty sure I always say that in every single one of my videos, but man, it really is gorgeous out there. Well, I'm gonna roll out of bed, throw some pants on, make some coffee, and start my day, guys. I'm just making up some oatmeal. I'm gonna have a really simple breakfast, probably some oatmeal and some sausage. And looks like everyone else over there slowly waking up too, so I'm guessing that we'll probably have some breakfast and hit the trail before too awful long. But it's just a beautiful spot here. Got this nice bowl of fresh fruit. On trips out here like this, just simple things like having some fresh fruit is a really nice addition. Making up my coffee for the road, and one of the things I like is this concentrated cold brew. Generally you can get this at like Costco's. I think they even have it at Safeway now. This is just a really concentrated coffee. Like they say, this container makes 32 ounces of it. So I'm going to make up a coffee for the road this morning. I'll put a little bit of this cold brew and some half and half in there.
They'll be ready. But normally I like to be on the road by 9, 10 o'clock. So.
Did anybody touch bases with any of the other crew?
I haven't, not this morning.
Alright guys, we are rolling out of camp. We just pulled the grade up out of the old historic ranch where we're at, and now we're pretty much just going to make some time. We got a pretty long day of driving, or at least a long distance of driving for this country, relatively speaking. We got almost 70 miles until our next...
Idaho time, not too bad.
What time is it, Idaho time, George?
16.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
It's early.
It's just beautiful this morning, and I'm responsible for navigating us to our next stop, so I'm gonna have to get a map out here pretty soon. But we just broke out on top up here, and it is just incredible how far you can see out here. So
Funny, if you look back in the mirrors, you'd have no idea that little valley / canyon is there.
as we continued to drive through just some breathtaking country, my excitement continued to mount as we got closer and closer to the next spot that I had planned out. I'd done quite a bit of research prior to the trip, and I had several historic sites that I wanted to look for along the way, and each of them held a lot of promise for a couple of reasons, but mainly because of the remote nature of them. There stood a really good chance of there being some very intact ruins and maybe even some artifacts still left inside some of the buildings. But you can only tell so much from satellite imagery and from reading the history books. At the end of the day, you just never know what you're going to find until you get there. So it was with a little bit of nervous anticipation that we approached the very first location that I had marked out for the day. They say fortune favors the fool, and this time fortune was definitely on my side as we rolled up to one of the most incredible homesteads that I've found in recent years. Wow, this is pretty cool. So there's this stone structure over here, there's a wooden homestead over there, and I don't know, I'm thinking maybe this was the original structure, and then later when they improved the roofs in here, they brought in some lumber to build the newer homestead over there. But this is pretty impressive. A lot of work went into building this structure right here. Yeah. This is literally one of the coolest homesteads that I've ever found. This one has it's built out of stone, but it still has the majority of the roof structure on it. And it's so remote out here, like there's no modern beer cans around or anything. Where I'm standing right here, probably, I bet, was where the garden was for it. Just very cool. I think there's even a pillow in here.
I think that box was for their flour and stuff. I've seen that done in other places, so.
What's really amazing is to think about the journey that stove had to take to get out here.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Like that came on something that was pulled by a horse.
Oh, look at it.
Nothing in there?
Just debris and stuff, but it's been left open all this time.
So we're working our way closer and closer to a place where we're going to cross the Owyhee River. And one thing I've always thought was really unique about this country is as you're driving across it, it can just look like it's flat as a pancake. And you'd swear there's no terrain as far as the eye can see. But then all of a sudden, almost out of nowhere, you'll have this huge canyon open up in front of you. And I just think that's the coolest thing. Like you look out across this and you just have no idea how much stuff is actually out here, how much interesting terrain. This water crossing would mark our southernmost water crossing. It also was the point that prior to the trip, during the planning phase, George and I had agreed I would hand over the lead position to him. So from this point forward, George would take the lead position and I would take up the rear position. This was also the general area that we'd planned on camping for the evening. However, it was still early enough in the day that we decided to jump back on the trail and make a couple more hours worth of progress. So after a quick little strategy session with George, we were back on the trail. Only this time, I was in the rear position instead of the lead position. And maybe about another dozen or so miles down the trail, I happened to spot something off in the distance that looked really interesting. So I radioed ahead, had the rest of the convoy stop, and come back and meet me. I never would have saw it, except I wanted to put my binoculars. Alright, well this is interesting. We randomly stumbled across another stone ruin we just saw off in the distance from the road, so we're checking it out.
That's pretty badass. I don't know.
That set of ruins was an unexpected bonus for all of us. There was no indication on any of the maps that we'd looked at that it was even there. So we were all really excited to have stumbled across it. But after spending some time checking it out, it was time to start making tracks again on the trail. Sarah had indicated she had a special little treat planned for us at camp, so we wanted to make sure she had plenty of time to get that ready for us. Alright, so here we are at camp for night number 2. We've got another pretty cool ruin here, and some flat area, so everybody's just going to kind of get their campsites picked out. I'll let everybody else kind of pick out their spot, and then I'll find me a little place tucked off to the side, and we'll get our camp set up and enjoy the evening. Alright, well, I got my camp all set up, and after a long dusty day on the trail, at this point my camera stopped recording, but what I meant to say was, it sure feels nice to take a shower and knock the trail dust off. I've just got a really primitive, simple shower bag set up, but it sure does the trick. So I'm just sitting having a little snack before I go over and be social. Drink of water, relaxing, just watching the sun setting over there. Man, it's beautiful. Had a bag of fresh vegetables I brought from home. These are actually really nice and refreshing to snack on.
Only when it's action time.
It is action time.
Action! Cut! Roll!
Roll. Let's roll.
So, here's our shower situation.
We
set it up so it's more an off-grid charging station. As long as you have solar, you could do this. Check it out.
It's in the main house.
You walk in the main door, it's immediate to your right.
Oh, first door on the right. I see.
Right here. So we have a towel situation going on. So we have a bucket here. This is a black bucket, so it heats up in the sun. You just put water in there about 3 hours later. But it folds down into this, the size of this thing here to fit into its own package. But we have a grass floor. It's very nice.
Ooh.
Yeah. But yeah.
That's pretty bushcraft right there.
It is, right? So then we have an electric pump. It's actually charging because we both just took showers right now, so she's charging. It works.
So Jamie and Sarah are kind of taking over a section of these ruins here. All right, let's go over and see how the other Idaho contingent is. All right, what do we got going over here with the Idaho contingent?
Just cleaned up camp for dinner.
Huh? What'd you guys have for dinner?
What we call haystacks.
Haystacks.
Yep.
Which, yeah, haystacks are basically like nachos with Fritos.
And chili.
Ooh, I like that. What's the plan for tomorrow, George?
Iro?
We're gonna head due north.
Start heading back north, so we're at our southernmost point here.
Yep. We'll be heading north. We got a couple of river crossings, a couple of canyon crossings that are going to be interesting, I think.
Excellent. Good.
Possibly some other side trips if we got time or feel like it.
Okay.
Some homestead. And another special guest shows up tomorrow.
Oh, that's
What?
right.
Who's the special guest?
Donald from Softroading.
What's his YouTube channel?
Softroadingthewest.
Softroadingthewest. Oh, and here comes Sarah.
Hi guys. Nice blaze you got going.
It was a dark and scary night. I totally messed up your video.
Look at that shot. No, that's perfect. Look at the sky, though.
Dude, you got like...
It's a badass shot, huh?
Dude, how do you get picking up that
I
much
got
light?
you like all
Dude, that's awesome.
So, yeah,
See, that's actually useful shit.
yeah, I've got
Yeah.
some
Sky is
work
just
in with the
amazing.
manager.
Tell us what you made for dinner.
I made jambalaya. It's got andouille sausage, chicken, and shrimp. All the good Cajun stuff.
It smells amazing.
Well, thank you.
So this is, Sarah, this is your recipe?
Mhm.
God, it tastes spot on.
Well, that's the way I learned it from the Cajuns.
Like my buddy Troy from down the bayou.
Right. They don't fool around.
All right, well, getting ready to bed down for night number 2. Had a really nice evening tonight. And that Sarah made an awesome jambalaya. Super authentic, man. It tasted like I was back in New Orleans. And had a nice time sitting around the fire visiting with all the Idaho contingent and hopefully get a good night's sleep. And sounds like we got another day worth of mileage tomorrow. Shout out to my buddy Elias, Able Flight Crew. Thanks, buddy. Hope you're out there having fun somewhere. So that's all for this day, guys. Coyote Works out. I'll see you in the morning for coffee. So this seemed like about as good a place as any to wrap up part 1 of this adventure. I hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully you'll come back for part 2. In part 2, the trails get quite a bit rougher. We have a handful of water crossings, a few of them pretty deep, and we definitely find a couple more pretty amazing historic sites. As always, I appreciate y'all joining me for part 1 of this adventure. I look forward to your comments, your questions, and look forward to seeing you in part 2. Until then, Coyote Works, out.
I would be okay if we did not do another road like that.
About 30.